Where there is power, there is also money, and there's no shortage of either of those when your father-in-law is Donald Trump. Jared Kushner's new private equity firm received $2 billion from Saudi Arabia, because perhaps that's how you can profit when your investing skills is limited. But your father-in-law was once the commander-in-chief and might return to the White House in 2024. Additionally, you may be able to secure billions for a startup company that has no reputation, because the Saudis benefited from White House favors when your father-in-law was the President of the United States. But hey, who are we to speculate? Let's get to the facts. Probably a combination of both, right? But whatever the case, it's undoubtedly not an indication of Kushner's skill as an investor. Kushner, 41, inherited his wealth and his first adult job from his father before moving into the White House as an advisor to the former President Donald Trump. However, he botched his biggest bet by grossly overpaying for a Fifth Avenue skyscraper shortly before the financial and real estate markets collapsed. The Saudis' investment in Kushner also serves as a reminder of the enormous financial conflicts of interest that dogged the Trump family's deal-making after they left the White House and continue to this day. Of fact, risks to national security permeate everything. Is it really so simple to win a key White House advisor's support and influence on their views on foreign policy? It is indeed, in the Trump era at least. Before stepping down as the head of the US Office of Government Ethics, Walter Shaub was a vocal opponent of financial conflicts in the Trump White House. He said, "It's simply a complete free-for-all. The lack of public access to information about any possible favors that someone like Kushner may have performed for the Saudis is the real worry in this situation. Although the federal government has made efforts in recent years to limit former government officials' capacity to profit from their employment in Washington, there are still many lucrative loopholes. Kushner, for instance, is only constrained professionally from speaking to the federal government. He's still free to communicate and cooperate with any foreign authority he chooses, including the Saudis." Kushner is not alone. Steven Mnuchin, a former Treasury Secretary, also raised money for his investment fund from Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern nations that he courted keenly when he was an influential banking regulator. So, do these investments yield returns? Although it's hard to understand the thoughts of every person, the pattern of events surrounding the interactions between the Saudis and the Trump White House is instructive. Even when there was clear proof that Saudi Arabia had planned the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, the Trump administration continued to provide Saudi Arabia special treatment. After the murder, Mnuchin had a private meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The Saudi fund that is supporting Mnuchin's new business is headed by the prince. In addition, the Trump administration overcame congressional resistance to make arms agreements with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and it supported both nations' contentious operations in Yemen's civil war. Kushner personally developed strong relationships with Prince Mohammed during his time in the White House and gave him advice on how to handle the backlash from Khashoggi's murder. The two guys used WhatsApp, a text messaging service, to connect with one another outside of authorized official channels. Korean national security staff employees were alarmed by the friendship, yet it seemed to never cool. According to the New York Times, a council that oversees how the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund invests its money had worries about supporting Kushner's new company, Affinity Partners. The fund's board, which Prince Mohammed serves on, overturned it. The Times materials revealed that the panel had several reasons to be concerned about Kushner. It referred to the inexperience of Kushner's staff and the potential for substantial financial loss. In its thorough investigation of Affinity, the panel concluded that it was unsatisfactory in all aspects. It considered Kushner's payments to be high and deemed working with his fund to include public relation risks. The Saudis donated Kushner $2 billion despite this, most likely as an insurance policy for them. It's a bet on keeping access in the future rather than obtaining investment knowledge now. Deals like this, in Shaub's opinion, demonstrate the importance of having an emoluments policy, regulating the commercial activities of former public servants. He says it's really risky, but generally speaking, our ethical laws are in really bad shape. All of our government's branches are weak. Shaub contends that the financial money train is frequently too alluring for many people to resist in Washington, regardless of their party, and that the Biden administration hasn't gone far enough to tighten ethics requirements. Trump famously ran for office in Washington with the pledge that he would drain the swamp of lobbyists and other like-minded individuals. However, given Trump's own financial struggles, it was always doubtful. Trump overturned his own directive that former federal employees stop for 5 years from lobbying the organizations where they previously worked shortly after he departed the White House. Trump failed to remove the swamp. He merely overflowed it with larger alligators such as Jared Kushner. Now, enough about the man, let's get on to Ivanka. According to a Washington Post examination of financial declarations, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump claimed outside income while working for the White House, ranging from $172 million to $640 million. The income is occasionally reported in broad ranges, covering the 4 months before Ivanka Trump formally joined her father's government, and about a month before Jared Kushner entered, making it impossible to determine the precise amount, and of course, this is not including the generous $2 billion donation that the Saudis made to affinity partners. In an effort to allay worries about nepotism, both Kushner and Trump declared they would not accept a salary while working for the government. However, the enormous sum of money they gained on the side undermines the claim that they were making a public sacrifice, as their government wages would have made up less than 1% of their total income. Ivanka Trump's ownership stake in the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C., which is a few blocks away from the White House and the hub of influence peddling in the Trump administration, played a significant role in their outside income. The pair made a total of 23 visits to the hotel before the COVID-19 pandemic caused business to slow down. Ivanka has generated more than $13 million total from the hotel since 2017, with the pandemic at least in part to blame for the decline from around $4 million per year between 2017 and 2019 to about $1.5 million last year. The value of her ownership has decreased mysteriously in addition to the decline in revenue. In her final statement, she stated that it was only between $100,000 to $250,000, contrary to her earlier claims it was worth between $5 million and $25 million. She did not disclose selling any of her hotel ownership interests. Ivanka Trump's income from the property wasn't her only contentious source while she was employed by the White House. Ivanka declared in 2018 that she would be closing her namesake company, and she later informed the government in a statement that all operations of the business terminated on July 31st, 2018. But despite her claims that it didn't exist, we found that she still earned up to $1 million from it in 2019. Even while it's still unclear exactly what Ivanka accomplished during her 4 years in the White House, her stay there was still characterized by a number of scandals involving alleged conflicts of interest with her businesses. The children of presidents may have obvious concerns when interacting with foreign countries, but receiving money or other benefits from foreign governments while serving as a top staffer in your father's administration ought to be a no-go. However, obtaining international trademarks to utilize after leaving the White House may have been Ivanka's greatest achievement during her stint in the administration. 2 trademarks for Ivanka Trump's company were renewed by Russia just 1 month before her father was elected president. A pattern would begin with this. Ivanka's company received preliminary permission for 3 Chinese trademarks in 2017, the same day she had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Ivanka's company received registration clearance from the Chinese government in May 2018 for 5 trademark applications, and initial trial approval for a 6th. The Chinese telecom giant ZTE, which is closely associated with the government, declared the same week that President Trump would attempt to rescue jobs there. Ivanka's company received registration approval for 3 further Chinese trademarks a month later, the same day her father said he was lifting ZTE restrictions. Wow, this is a hole of coincidence, don't you think? The day her father was elected president, Ivanka's company submitted an application for Japanese trademarks. When Mike Pence visited Japan and met with Prime Minister Abe at the time, they were authorized. Ivanka and her father had a meeting with Abe a week or so after her business submitted its trademark application. In 2017, she received permission for several Japanese trademarks. Ivanka's business received 16 new trademarks from the Chinese government in October 2018, the scandal that would come to define her tenure in office. These trademarks included ones for voting machines. Ivanka obtained the most new Chinese trademark permissions in a single month under the Trump administration with these certifications, which came around 3 months after she announced her brand was closing. It obtained a new trademark to market the Ivanka brand in Canada 6 months after the business was formally shut down. Ivanka Trump was granted at least 28 foreign trademarks while her father was president, according to New York Times. We know she worked on the Trump administration's execution of the Opportunity Zones program in 2018, despite the fact that most of her work at the White House was rather hazy and may have violated conflict of interest laws. But all roads lead back to Jared, who also had a sizable financial position at Cadre, a business that provides investment vehicles under the Opportunity Zones program, at the same time that Ivanka was working on Opportunity Zones. Kushner's ownership in Cadre was worth between $5 million and $25 million when he and Trump first joined the administration. The price would increase to $25 to $50 million. Kushner first hid the fact that he owned Cadre. He never divested from Cadre, even though the senior White House ethics official once said it was reasonably required for him to do so in order to do his duties. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner shouldn't have been allowed to work in the White House. President Trump requested that his children serve in the White House, and the Department of Justice overturned decades of precedents to make this happen. They undoubtedly made hundreds of millions of dollars from dubious sources while taking on tremendous duties that they weren't equipped to handle, sullying their positions with ongoing ethical concerns and abusing their positions. The same nepotism that earned them their employment accused all of that, a sacrifice or two. Well, we hope you've learned a thing or two about what having a rich and powerful father-in-law can do for you. Thanks for watching.